for those listening, Blue, Navy, Green, Army.
Yep.
19th Group Special Forces. Special Forces is specific to the Army. That's one of the common, I think, mistakes that both media and civilian folks make is they say Special Forces as opposed to Special Operations. Special Forces is Green Berets, but so this is a reserve Green Beret or Special Forces group out of Watkins, Colorado that he joined up with. But
yeah, and they're pretty good dudes. I got introduced to SF dudes when I was in Okie. They got some first group dudes out of there, so I was hanging out with some of their SIF dudes and stuff. And so I didn't speak Green Beret fluently, and I still don't. Yeah. But my introduction to them was SIF dudes. Yeah. They're pretty badass. However, when I got to Fort Bragg, I realized it's a large community, and not everyone is a door kicker. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. No disrespect to my SF brothers, but... the SIF guys are a little more intense than the
logistics dudes,
the other Green Berets, and so yeah. I mean, I had a good taste in my mouth about these SF dudes. The dudes at Watkins were awesome dudes, man. They put you in a rec company, getting you ready for selection and stuff. But because of my prior background, they even waived selection, which I was nervous about because I said, "Look, I appreciate that, but I'm not asking for favors and we've had dudes come to Buds from SF." You got to go one day. You got to go back to kindergarten with everybody else.
Yeah, you got to prove your shit.
I don't want favors. I don't want to show up to brag with this little piece of paper. Hey, and then
people are like, fuck this guy.
Well, and that's exactly what happened.
Fuck this guy.
Well, so it was kind of like I was trapped between mom and dad fighting. So the unit, they were like, no, bro, you're a fully qualified dude. Like, really, you should go through MOS and language and, whatever. Robin Sage and get out or whatever. Yeah. They had an abbreviated format for me in mind when I got to Fort Bragg.
They're like, fuck you.
They were like, who the fuck are you? And what was funny is a lot of the students didn't know what the Trident was because at that time they had the 18 X-ray program. So they had these little SF babies. And so literally we're in formation and I'm like, so what'd you do before this? And like, oh, I worked at Arby's. And I was like, holy shit, dude.
For real you did?
Yeah. I mean, I was... late 20. I was probably almost 30 at the time. Yeah. And so they would say, oh, what's that on your uniform? And I'm like, oh, I can play with this shit, dude. So I'd be like, well, I was in the Navy. What'd you do in the Navy? Oh, I was a naval astronaut. And they would just be like, dude. But then the instructors would come around in formation and they would stop and they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing here? And I'm like, man, I don't know, dude. One of my favorite memories was one of our entrance tests was to swim 50 meters in boots and utes. Yeah. And so they line you up alphabetically. Go ahead.
It's boots and utilities, like in camouflage, like full pants and
in your boots,
and tops. But go ahead.
So we're lined up alphabetically. So Impastato, I'm in the middle, and I'm just hanging out. And so finally, I get to the edge of the pool, and this dude in fins and a mask looks up at me and he goes, "Are you fucking with me, bro?" He goes, "I'm pretty sure you can swim 50 meters." Yeah. So it was cool. I jump in the pool and I swim 25 out and 25 back. And so it was kind of a funny, some of the instructors thought it was funny and some didn't. So what happened was I never got into a phase of training. I would report to the National Guard liaison because they brought me straight across as an E5. So I was a sergeant. Well, my TAC, I was going in as an 18 Charlie, which is a demo guy. And my TAC was like, well, how are you already an E5 in the Army? And I said, well, they brought me straight across. They tried to bump me down a couple of ranks, but I told them I'm not coming in as an E3. Like I earned my E5. I have a family. I have some pay concerns. And so they did some paperwork. I came straight across as a sergeant. Well, that doesn't fly in the Army. Yeah. They have their PLDC leadership course. So they're like, well, hold on, bro. You didn't go through selection. You didn't go through PLDC. Like, you're here for SUT, small unit tactics, second phase. And I'm like, bro, I'm just doing what the piece of paper says. Like, I'm willing to do anything you want. Yeah. So what I learned about their SF process, the Q course, is it's not really a pipeline like ours is. They'll send a dude out for selection, and then he goes home for a couple months. And then he'll come out for second phase, go home for a couple months. It's very modular in that you can do it in bits and pieces.
So it's not total immersion ball kicking like we had to go through. Yeah.
It's phase by phase. And so then they were like, well, maybe, he's got SEER school, but it's not Army SEER school. So let's send him to SEER school. So I literally would report to the National Guard liaison and say, did I get a phase of training today? No. So I'd go home. So I sat there at Fort Bragg frustrated willing to do anything, not asking for favors. So I had a buddy of mine that was at Damnik at the time, and I would call him up with my frustrations. So he said, hey, bro, one of our other buddies, I don't want to throw out too many names out there because I don't know where they're at or what they're doing, but he goes, hey, this dude's working for Dine Corps. He's on Car's Eyes Protection Detail, and he's making like 10, 12 grand a month. I'm like, what? Is that some Soldier of Fortune bullshit? Or like, what? I mean, is this, what's going on, man? Yeah. So I got in touch with that dude. He goes, oh, bro, this is like being in a platoon again, but you're getting like admiral's pay, dude. It's crazy. I'm like, is this for real? Because I might be able to get out of this because I haven't been quite plugged in yet. You know what I mean? So sure as shit, he gave me the recruiter for Dine Corps. And so I emailed him my situation. I said, look, I'm currently stationed at Fort Bragg, but I'm really not doing much. You know, I check in with the liaison dude and see you tomorrow. Yeah. Which isn't a bad gig unless you want to accomplish something. You know what I mean? So the Dine Corps guy goes, hey, this isn't the first time we've come across this. What we can do is we can put you IRR, and then you can just deploy with the State Department. And I'm like, hey, if you can make that happen. And so my unit back in Colorado they felt bad for me. I mean, they knew what was going on. Like I said, it was this war between Colorado and Fort Bragg of, hey, just get this dude qualified and get him back here. Yeah. The unit itself treated me very well, like a brother. Yeah. Had a blast with those dudes, a lot of respect. Most of those dudes are former active duty guys with a ton of experience. And sometimes they get deployed more than the active duty guys. It's weird how that works with 19th and 20th Group. Yeah. So luckily, as a favor to me, they put me IR, and I was released to the State Department with Dine Corps. Yeah. And then I bounced out to Virginia for a selection process, and that was my introduction to contracting in 2003, which it is, at that time, a fairly new concept, you know?
Sure. Before we get into that, one thing I'm curious of, and I think a lot of people would be, is that, making that transfer of being, an active duty SEAL for a number of years and then getting out and then transferring back into an Army SF reserve group, like how, just real quick, if you could kind of synopsize, like how's that even fucking possible?
Dude, it's, as far as like mentally possible?
No. Well, I know it's fucking mentally possible. Like how, I guess logistically, like you just, I mean, like what does that process entail?
Oh, it's easy. You just go to the National Guard recruiter and you say, hey, this is who I am. I've heard about this unit.
And they'll bring you straight into a fucking Green Beret reserve unit.
Yeah, no shit. Absolutely. They were just like, yeah, bro, this is easy day, man. Sign here.
And then they qualify you.
So I reported to the unit. They're like, hey, this is the nearest 19th Group unit out of Watkins. And so I'd you do the weekend warrior thing, 1 weekend a month. Kind of like, I was like Pauly Shore in the Army now.
It's funny you mentioned Pauly Shore because goddamn, you sound just like him.
Right? Dude, I love that guy, dude.
You fucking sound exactly like his dad.
So that's how it was. It was actually a pretty simple process. Yeah. So because of my contacts with the first group SIF dudes, I was able to get the proper information, basically, to go to this recruiter and say, hey, I've heard about this 19th Group thing. Yeah. What's the deal with it? And so they made it all happen. And dude, it was flawless. It was super easy, man.
Damn, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Mentally, it was different, though. It's, I felt like a foreign exchange student because they have their own language. Yeah. So they'd be like, hey, grab your 201 files. And I'm like, what the fuck's a 201 file? Like, oh, it's your service record. I'm like, can't they just say service fucking, So I was constantly like nudging dudes like, hey, what are we doing? It was kind of like airborne. Like we really didn't know what was going on. We just kind of did it. Yeah. That was my experience at Bragg. But the problem there was too, is I was friends with a lot of the SF dudes I had worked with before. Yeah. And so we'd, partake in some festivities on the weekends. And so I was kind of like part student, part bro, it was fun.
Mixing the fraternization.
Mm-hmm.
That's good shit. All right. So you transfer from, you're in Thailand, 9/11 happens. You're like, holy fuck, I got to get back stateside. You roll into 19th Group, and then now you get the offer to, do contracting work. Now, for those listening, like the contracting, timeline was pretty interesting in that, from 9/11 to 2003, there wasn't really hardly any activity with it. It wasn't until Iraq kicked off. And really, once the whole ground invasion was done, early part of 2003, which is when, that was my time there was, that conventional force aspect of it, which, was neat in and of its own right of being witness to and part of that. But, that didn't take very long. Like once all of the especially the, 1st Marine Division had swept all the way up through into Crete where we were at with them and took the palace down and all that shit, at that point it was kind of like, okay, well, the country's taken over, fucking now what? And I remember not long after I left there, that's when contracting started to pick up, and then it just increased, steadily over and over. And one of the things, again, kind of the premise of this interview and this episode is that experience, the contracting side of special operators. Once they get out and they're like, fuck it, I'm going to go make, $1,200, $1,500 a day, $2,000 if they're, supervisors or whatever, program managers, shit like that. Like, they're going to go make more money, but there's elements of it that are very, very similar, but there's some that are pretty fucking contrasted, and so I'm real anxious and excited to get into this portion of the interview where, kind of hearing your experiences with the contracting side, because, I have a ton of really good friends, some of which have been killed doing contracting, but that have worked for Dine and Triple Canopy and Blackwater and MBM and, all these other companies that have done the contracting thing. And so, I know that you worked for several different ones. The first one was Dynacor, but, once you got that State Department offer and were put in a position to where you could go do the selection, walk me through just kind of that process of transferring over into working for a contracting company and what that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. I've always kind of had that Forrest Gump kind of luck. I was beating my head against the wall with this SF process. Couldn't get that off the runway. And so just through my conversations with brothers, this opportunity presented itself. Had no idea what I was getting into, just off the good word of some bros. So I went off to Virginia for a selection process. The early days of contracting were pretty pure. You had to have pretty much a soft background. So it was a lot of CAG dudes, SF dudes, and team guys.
That's Delta and...
Yep.
For those not familiar, CAG and Delta are interchangeable, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So the selection process was nothing really to speak of at that time because it had been around for a short time, but it had just grown a bit to where they had kind of a senior cadre that just needed some good dudes to get boots on the ground initially. So the selection process was pretty much just to make sure you were good to go. Mm-hmm. They had some shooting courses and stuff, and it was fairly basic. They trusted your background quite a bit. Yeah. They just verified that you were still current. You weren't some, team guy in the 80s and hadn't done anything in 20 years or whatever. They made sure you were fairly current and you were still proficient. For me, initially, I was supposed to go to the KPD, the Car's Eye Protection Detail. But some things had changed overseas, and so my entire class, we were told the last day that we were going to Israel. So I was like, I don't even know where that's at on a map. On all this cold weather shit in my hotel room, I can just leave it. Like, okay. I was totally pumped for this Car's Eye thing. And I find myself being whisked away to Israel, and it was weird. Then it turns into kind of this like weird series of events where it was like a Scooby-Doo mystery. So, okay, I think I'm going to Afghanistan, but now I'm going to Israel. This dude picks us up at the airport in Tel Aviv, and don't know who he is. He just lets us know he's with the company, and we all pile in this van. I happen to be riding right front passenger seat, and I'm just like, dude ain't saying a word. He's just driving on this fucking road.
I love it that I'm with the company.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, you're just kind of going with it. Like, this is fucking weird to me because prior to that, it's all been kind of laid out military stuff where I basically know what's going on. So we get into Jerusalem and we go to this hotel. We get cell phones, a wad of local currency, and they just pick who we're going to live with. These other rental cars show up. They drive us to these apartments, and they say, we'll see you at 8 a.m.
God damn.
It's like, it's weird shit, dude. So I'm with, he's now a good friend, but we had just met at that point. And we were roommates, and we have this little apartment in Jerusalem. Don't know where we're at in Jerusalem. Just we know that we're in Jerusalem somewhere, and all of our furniture is boxed up like from IKEA. It's a nice apartment, but it's all in boxes and shit. And we're like, what the fuck do we do? This is so weird. We got till 8 a.m. apparently to figure something out. And as soon as we're trying to sort our shit out, there's a knock at the door, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's dude, Mr.
Company man.
Yeah, company man, dude. And so I peek through the peephole, and it's a dude in some type of uniform with an Uzi. So I'm at my roommate, my buddy. I'm like, dude, come here. And I'm trying to whisper, answer the door. He goes, you fucking answer the door. I'm like, dude, he's got an Uzi. Come on, man. You answer the door. So I'm like, fuck, dude. This is literally, I don't know how long I've been, like maybe 30 minutes in this apartment. So I'm like, fuck, dude, this is not cool, dude. So I open the door, and he's like speaking some language. I don't know, probably Hebrew, or I don't know what it is at this point. And so I don't know what he's saying. So I just said, American. So and then he starts speaking English, and he's basically asking us who the fuck we were.
Yeah.
Like it was on us this quick.
Jesus.
And so we show him our passports, and he ends up kind of fucking off, whatever. So we, as the story unfolded, we kind of got our wits about us. Our apartment was right next door to Ariel Sharon's compound, and that was he's the prime minister of Israel at the time. And that was like his Secret Service going, who the fuck are these weird dudes that just moved in this apartment?
So they didn't fucking, the company didn't deconflict that with the host nation?
No, or give us a heads up. Hey, by the way, your apartment is right next to the White House. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
holy shit.
All right, so here I'm gonna delve off into the weeds for a hot minute. Is that for all you conspiracy theory fucks out there that think that the government is capable of pulling off 9/11, like they can't even. No. Like when I hear that shit, like I laugh. I'm like, if you had any idea how fucking incompetent our government actually was, like it's laughable to think that they could pull off something like 9/11. Like honestly, like choke yourself.
Not possible. No way.
Like they can't get themselves out of a wet fucking paper bag 90% of the time. But
you're giving them too much credit when you think they can mastermind.
Like no fucking way. Like 99 out of 100 people would have fucked that up before they even thought about it happening. But anyway.
Yeah, 100%, man. So yeah, dude, I was just in a weird fucking world, man. And we ended up making it work. I think a lot of that in the early days. I think anytime anything is new is the best time to be a part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rules haven't been written. The book hasn't been written. Like it doesn't exist yet. It's in its infancy. And so we just made shit up as we went, dude. So we end up, we tried to find some food that night. And I remember going out of the apartment, and me and my buddy looked right, we looked left, and we're like, fuck, we just went left. We ended up finding a sandwich shop, and here's another dude in a chair with an Uzi pointed at us, and he's like tapping the trigger with his fingers. We walk up, I'm like, this place is nuts, bro. So we end up getting some little sandwich. They pick us up the next day, and they brief us. Yeah, at 8. Yeah, the car pulled up at 8, and we went to the consulate. So the embassies in Tel Aviv, the consulates in Jerusalem. And we still don't know really what's going on. Like, what are we doing here? We all thought we were going to be in Afghanistan. Now we're got Uzis pointed at us. Like, this is fucking weird, man. So we get there, and the detail leader is this older guy with a big scar up his face. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? I mean, these guys look like someone's chewed their bubble gum, dude. These are some
fucking battle-hardened.
Yeah, some rough-looking dudes around here. So this dude introduces himself. And in the early days of DynCorp, all of the team leaders and project managers in place were all retired CAG dudes. So they were all just, CAG by nature is just kind of serious entity.
Yeah, no fucking sense of humor.
No, and these guys, I always call them, how do I describe the CAG dudes? Homicidal Harvard grads with zero social skills.
No shit.
That's just kind of how they struck me. This is really the first time I was kind of hanging out with these cats. And I ended up learning the story about his big scar. But basically, he kind of tells us what the mission is and what we're going to do. Issues us a bunch of legitimate kit and some M4s. And he goes around the table, asks us our background. And he picks 5 of us to be the CAT team, counter-assault team. And he goes, square away your gear. You know, our first mission's tomorrow. We're going to Gaza City. And I was like, are we going to like go to the range at all? Does my weapon go bang?
Are we going to sight our shit in?
Yeah.
Test fire?
Dude, this is all like normal military thought process. Nope. You had one night to square away your shit. And sure as shit, day 2, we're walking around Gaza City, Gaza. And I'm like,
fucking
what
strapped.
the fuck, dude? Yeah, like
Kitted
this
up
is,
and
you're in
fucking
Indian
strapped.
country,
Yeah.
dude. So it's unlike the military where you train for forever.
2 fucking years before I ever even
and
do
then
it.
you do a deployment. We had 24 hours to square away our kit. And because of our backgrounds, we were put on this team that went, and I was just like, whoa, dude, this is way too fast. Like, holy shit. I'm in G-Town, man. So Gaza was a big part of our early story. We took a lot of small arms fire going through there and stuff. It was 03 was pretty tough times. It was right before they built the walls around some of the Palestinian held territories. A lot of suicide bombings in Israel proper. So you never got away from it.
Yeah.
We would work in the West Bank or Gaza, and then we'd go back to Jerusalem, and cafes were blowing up, buses were blowing up, dudes were throwing grenades in marketplaces. It was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I had, only about 8 years military experience total at the time, and I'm dealing with CAG dudes that were like 20, 24 years in.
Yeah.
They would tell stories of the botched Iranian hostage rescue, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, these are some heavy dudes, man. Yeah. We ended up, as any group of guys will, bonding and gelling as time went on. I used to feed them beers and get some Little Bird stories and stuff, and some of them were in the Somalia scenario. So we became a tight team, but we knew at some point that the SAF attacks were going to turn into something more substantial, and it did.
And SAF is
small arms fire.
Yeah, we got you.
So, dudes would pepper at us with AKs and stuff, but we had level 4 Suburbans and stuff. So it was nothing to be overly concerned of, except for the way I saw it was like, this is like my first real world shit going on. To these CAG dudes, they were probably bored as shit, but I was like, my time in the fleet and the teams was fairly uneventful, especially compared to modern things that have gone on. So my time in Gaza is kind of where I got my cherry broke, and I was kind of stoked about it. And these CAG dudes were like, bro,
you fucking pussy.
Calm down, bro. I was like, this is shooting at us, So I was kind of pumped. I felt like I checked the box,
Yeah.
But our 6th week into it, as we knew would happen, unfortunately, a roadside hit one of our motorcades going in. It was another team from Tel Aviv, and it killed 3 of our dudes. So that was the first time I had experienced the loss on our side. And it was, in my opinion, pretty brutal. Like, we had to sanitize our apartments and mail back things and stuff. I had befriended another team guy that was the team leader of the Tel Aviv team. And again, I'm trying to refrain from names because I just don't know who's who and who's related to who or whatever.
No, that's no worries.
But I volunteered to sanitize his apartment, and I kept a shirt that I still have to this day from that. So that was my first experience of kind of when your soul's torn a little bit, when you lose someone close to you,
To me, it's like the stark and grim reality of what you're actually doing,
It was. It was. And being so new to this profession, man, I thought, holy shit, what have I... As dangerous as active duty is, there's still some type of protocol or method to it that I understood, but this was so foreign to me. I thought, like, are we just out here flapping in the wind? Like, obviously, there's no U.S. military presence.
Yeah, there's no
in Israel.
No quick reaction
there's no
force.
QRF. Like, it's you against the world, man. It kind of reminded me of Mad Max Road Warrior. You bust into the Gaza with your motorcade, and it's just you. And the Israelis aren't too stoked that you're there because they're like, what are you doing? Are you hooking up with the pallies? You giving them money or info? So it was... The best way I can describe Israel is we were the dude standing in the middle of a bar fight, not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, it was chaos for a long time.
Yeah.
So I spent about 2 years there.
God damn.
And I was there. My first pump there was 11 months straight. And that was like, you're in it because you live in it.
Yeah.
And then you go out to Indian country and you're in it. And so it was an eye opener for me. It was a growth process as an individual in the industry. Like, holy shit, this is... Luckily, I had the SEAL background, and so I always feel like I was kind of forged in the teams, but then I got sharpened and experienced as a contractor, because to me, that was my first real-world experience with, like, dude, shit's real. Like, there's people around here that want you dead. This isn't an ARG deployment out of Okinawa. This is Gaza Strip.
Yeah.